Dale Carnegie probably said it best in How to Win Friends and Influence People. A person's name is, to that person, the sweetest and most important sound in any language. And it's absolutely true, especially after the school year that we've been through. Learning students' names is absolutely imperative when it comes to relationship building, especially now that some of them are coming back to in-person school. Stick with me and let's talk about why it's so important to learn students' names and pronounce them correctly. Hi, and welcome to Classroom Confidential. My name is Christopher Youngren, and I'm a middle school ELA teacher in Tucson, Arizona. Here on this channel, I share tips and strategies I've used both in person and online, things that keep me sane and my students engaged. I'm delighted to share my ideas and experiences with you. So welcome. By learning students' names, especially the hard to pronounce ones, and pronouncing them correctly, you are conveying important information to your students. I care about you enough to learn your name. I accept you because you are important to me. And by modeling this behavior with your students, other students will see it and you will create an equitable environment in your classroom. And it's easier said than done, especially now that everybody is back and everyone's masked up, because everybody looks completely different. They're taller, they're shorter, they're bigger, they're smaller. And sometimes you don't recognize these students that you've been interacting with all year long on the Zoom screen because they look completely different in person. And so it's so important, instead of just having a conversation with somebody and pretending like you know who they are, just ask them, just be honest. And by being honest, they're gonna recognize, hey, you're human and you're not perfect either. Ask them their name. Say, gosh, I don't recognize you. Who are you? Oh, Sally. Of course you're Sally. How you doing, Sally? And start using their names immediately. They have been so separated all year, so distant, so isolated, that what they need now more than ever is to be recognized, especially now that they're back in the in-person classroom. They need to be seen, they need to be validated, they need to be valued as human beings. And it may seem silly, it may seem trivial, it may not seem that important to you, but to them, and going back to Dale Carnegie, to them, their name is the most important word that you can say. Now, this becomes even more significant when it comes to names that are tied to a student's culture or heritage. A lot of students have names that are tied either to their racial background or their religious background, and it has a great significance to them and great importance. And for you to just toss it off and not take the time to show that name the respect it deserves, even if it's difficult for you to understand or pronounce, is showing them perhaps a great deal of respect. It's showing their family, who chose what may be a very strong and significant name to their family, disrespect. And especially in this racially charged age that we're living in, it is more important than ever to distinguish and differentiate between your students and not just learn how to pronounce names like Bob and Chuck and Mary and Sally, but also the more difficult, perhaps foreign or culturally different names that are out there. The world is full of great and amazing names, and it is up to you as a teacher to learn them all. And I promise you, it will go miles in earning that child's respect and admiration of you as a teacher, because they will feel like you give a damn about them. Instead of just tossing it off or making a joke out of a name that you don't understand, it shows them that you respect them enough to learn who they really are. And if you don't know how to pronounce a student's name, just ask them. I guarantee you, especially with more unusual or uncommon names, it's not the first time that someone has struggled with it. And they will respect you a lot more if you start on day one by taking a moment and saying, please help me pronounce your name. I really want to make sure that I get it right because I respect you and I want to make sure I'm calling you the right thing, rather than if you just make up whatever pronunciation you think is correct and then saying it over and over and over again incorrectly, to the point where when you finally finally discover it's the wrong name, it's a lot more difficult for you to redirect the course. I had a student, Maria Elizabeth, and I didn't even know until halfway through the year that she would rather be called Elizabeth. We were also struggling with a bit of a language barrier, but finally, after calling her Maria for the first 6 months of class, one of my students said, you know, she really likes being called Elizabeth. And I said, oh gosh, is that right? I'm so sorry. And I immediately attempted to start calling her Elizabeth from that day forward. But I tell you, it was a lot more difficult, and I still slip up sometimes, especially on the Zoom screen where it says Maria Elizabeth, to just go by her first name. So if you start on day one attempting to pronounce their name correctly, it's going to be a lot easier than if you try and change course in midstream. Now, when it comes to gender identity issues, we get into more of a tricky, sticky area. And regardless of what a child is more comfortable being called, if the child is under 18, I think most schools still say you must call the child what their given name is. It does get into kind of a uncomfortable area here because you want to show them respect and you want to acknowledge them for the feelings that they're having. But this is a very slippery slope, and you want to take it very carefully and make sure that you are adhering to whatever rules that your own institution has set up. You know, you can say, I appreciate that you want to be called that. Unfortunately, I'm not able to call you that. I recognize that you are more comfortable calling yourself that, but I'm not comfortable calling you that. Other students may call that person whatever they want to be called, but you as an educator have still got to adhere to whatever rules have been set in place by your own school. Otherwise, you could end up in a world of trouble. Now, when it comes to strategies for actually remembering people's names, I will admit I am just as bad as anybody. Really, comment down below and tell me if you have trouble remembering people's names, because somebody will introduce themselves to me as Stephanie, and literally 3 seconds later, I'm like, oh gosh, did she say Sylvia, Sydney? What the hell was her name? I've completely forgotten. Now, when it comes to Zoom, it's been easy enough because their names have just been attached to their pictures, so you don't have any trouble remembering them because they're right there. But now that students are returning to school, we need to go back to whatever methods we were using prior to this whole Zoomification of the educational universe. And for me, what I use is a seating chart, obviously, and I put the names on the desks. And so then when I'm walking by the student, I can look at the name and I can look at the face, and I've got it right there, bingo, bango. Or you could take pictures of the students and make little flashcards with the picture on one side and the name on the other. But learn them quickly. The more quickly you can learn your students' names, the more you will begin to build a relationship with that person. Again, it may seem like a small, little, trivial thing, but especially after the year we've had, students want to be seen. Students want to be recognized for the unique individuals that they are. So learn their names and do it quickly. And yeah, sure, you may think it's easy because you've had them for 3/4 of the year and now they're back in person, and so how could it be difficult? But it is, because they're wearing masks, and like I say, they look completely different in person. If you're back in person, you already know what I mean. Shakespeare wrote, "What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet." But what the heck did Shakespeare know anyway, right? But on this point, I think he was a little off. I understand what he was going for, and I understand the romanticism of it, but names are important. Names hold power, and names convey respect, especially when you take the time to learn other people's names. So learn their names, pronounce them correctly, and it will go a long, long way to building classroom relations. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this video today. If you got value from it, do me a favor and smash that like button for me. If you're enjoying my videos, why not subscribe to my channel? Hit that notification bell and you'll be alerted every single time I release a new video. Be well out there, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and take care of those students. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.